always watch Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. And I always get tied up in, what's he going to eat? Where's he going to go? And my favorite ones, I just watch how he reacts, and the ones that he seems to like, and I believe he's quoted as saying, like, he loves Japanese sushi, he loves Thailand, Vietnam, and pho soup. The soup.
Yes, delicious.
And it's like warms his soul. He feels he's right at home. He enjoys all the ingredients, and it's the sights and sounds. He's sitting in the middle of an urban center on a little stool, open air market kind of thing.
Beautiful.
Motorcycles and scooters coming by. He probably has the stink of gasoline and diesel. And what came to mind, what struck a thought in me is, it's not a fancy place, it's not a fancy meal, but it's full of ingredients and warmth of a soup, that kind of thing. And if that's one of his favorite meals, I get it, because it's not accessible. Like a fancy 3-star Michelin rated French cuisine is not accessible to everybody.
That's right. Yeah.
But like your greasy diner that serves authentic foreign foods, and we have that kind of thing here in our city.
Yes, pockets of that everywhere.
Right? And those restaurants survive decade after decade.
Yes, and it'll be a tragedy if they do not. Like that stuff has so much culture, so much history, so many incredible stories, and delicious food that is just a shame. It's really a shame if it's not preserved.
And that's a story within itself, right? So that's why he says, in his meetings with different cultures, different people, it's easy to sit at their table, and despite differences, let's say being the hated American, their hospitality and their willingness to share and to feed and to discuss, you don't have to agree on everything, but you can learn from each other, and that's why I love that show so much. And particular locations and styles of food, when I see that he's enjoying it, it helps me to enjoy the show that much more too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So there's 2 stories that come out of that, and so I'll start with Vietnam, because seemingly to me, and again, I do believe he's been quoted as saying his favorite dish is to have a faux soup. Mm-hmm. Sit down and have a nice hearty warm soup full of just dozens of ingredients, right? Something that's just I'm not going to attempt to do myself, and even if I did, it's not going to turn out remotely close, right?
You got to try that.
I've tried, but I just unless you're willing to go to those downtown markets, to go right in the Vietnamese
to get the proper
market. Yeah, and I gotta say, if you're not, they're not your brethren, they're not your culture, people are scared to go in those markets. The things they see.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But the conversation that came up with respect to Vietnam was super interesting, because they just asked his favorite places to travel, and he's walking with the person hosting him, and he's like, don't you guys get angry? Don't you get ticked off with Americans and American culture and this and that? And he's like, don't flatter yourself. We've been at war for 600 years, and the U.S.-Vietnam War was a blip in their history. It was X amount of years, and that was it. And they moved on. Before that, they fought the Chinese, the French, the Dutch, back to the Chinese again, the Koreans. They fought the Americans, then back to the Chinese. So he's like, it's a very, like you said, it was super interesting.
Wow.
It's you were just one of many, but to the Americans it was a big deal, because frankly it was really a loss for them. They'd been outfought in guerrilla warfare, because they didn't fight that style of war before.
They went in another country that they really didn't know the the layout, the land, yeah, it was a great loss for them, absolutely. Which is interesting, the way they tell that story, because it is a loss.
Yeah, that's right. There's a mighty nation of more resources, more people, more money, right? You would think, they'd have all the advantages, but that's where Vietnam used their, what do you call it? Their setback or their disadvantage to their advantage, right?
That's right.
And,
That's right.
but no, it was a super interesting thing that he shared about that, and that, yeah, they're just like, don't kid yourself. We've been fighting for for centuries with other countries. It's just, I don't know, back to business as usual for them. I don't even know what the terminology is, but it's like, to an American or to Americans, they think like, okay, that was a big one. It's so meaningful. But for them, it's like, it's a part of their culture.
It was significant at the time, but there's other things to pay attention to.
And not without controversy, obviously, as well, because many Americans were opposed to that. It was during, issues of civil rights and, protest, more open protest, right?
Yeah.
Certainly more recorded history. You had film and radio and things like that now.
That's right.
Not to the degree that it is today, but certainly something unique in that, recorded history, just like they say the world wars are significant because they were caught on tape. It was broadcasted by radio, newspapers, that kind of thing. So that those ones, they're going to come to mind for people not only that outlive them, but they can withstand the test of time through history.
Yes. Well said.
And then the other thing, so then he started talking about European culture, and he had a friend that worked in the Ferrari factory in Italy. And he's like, oh no, it's nothing like North America, right? They roll in at 10:30. Breakfast is maybe like some bread or croissant or something, like, just like a small, I say croissant in Italy, but like, a small pastry. A lot of people walk or cycle to work, right? Like, it's not a long commute drive all the time. Things are certainly like closer, more compact. Get in a couple hours of work, then they have a catered lunch. They're fed really well, have a giant lunch, and then they go home for like a nap for 2 hours, come back, work for a couple more hours, have a tiny dinner, and then work, and then they shut it down. That's it. And my question is, can we get away with doing that here? Because, as they say, it's a difference between, working to live and living to work. Where certainly in North America, it feels like we're living to work.
Yes. What's interesting, though, in North America, there used to be the 6-hour workday. And
okay.
Kellogg's was instrumental in that. They were kind of like one of the leading industry people that just say 6 hours, don't worry about it, and they were productive and that sort of thing. And then it became a thing where they would offer an 8-hour or extended work day and incentivize it. And so they were pushing that incentive to get people onto an 8-hour workday. And basically, even though Kellogg's was trying to fight it, like, no, 6 hours, because you're going to overproduce. You're going to, if you stretch it out 2 hours, you're going to make too much product, basically.
Yeah.
Trying to make, and they were like, don't worry, profits.
Right.
8-hour work week, and more, right? Because the people that were getting those bonuses obviously were leveling up faster than those who were just doing the 6-hour.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a whole dynamics that are, all these things that roll up with that.
Can we go back to a 6-hour work week? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because I know the tide is changing with working from home, but how productive are people really from home.
Exactly. Right. But there are companies that are on the up and up with that, and they start to schedule more things, and therefore you can argue, depending on the line of work, people are having to be more attentive, more available, and more, work throughout the whole day now, arguably, than when, you can put around in the office, you could go hide here and there, you could.
Yeah, it would be a tough transition, I think, for North America to go back to a 6-hour work week or work from home and sort of be a little bit more autonomous with work. I don't know if everybody has the self-discipline to do that, to be honest.
I agree.
I think that's the key thing that's going to just
hold on the field. That's right.
It's like
I heard that Twitter now is they don't mind. They want all their workers, all their staff to work from home. That's it. They're doing away with the building,
which makes sense. I mean, brick and mortar suffering. There's retailers that have to close because they got these.
Yeah, you notice the difference with that in open air malls. With their own storefront were allowed to open versus like the traditional style shopping malls, like one building, all the outlets in the same large building, right?
Yes.
Those ones, like a Lime Ridge Mall, a Mapleview Mall, like Sherway, Square One, like they can't. But like the premium outlets, Niagara Falls, Halton Hills, that kind of thing. Oakville, Trafalgar has it. I think those guys are allowed because they have their own storefront and they're separated and so on, so that therefore they can follow more of the social distancing.
Yeah, which is weird because it's kind of like, okay,
yeah,
is this more something that has to do with the accountability? Like you've got all these people.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they're like, well, you have access, you got parking lot, blah, blah, blah. You're still going to pile a whole bunch of people there. It's still going to be like...
Irrespective, you're going to be around other people.
You're still going to be around other people, whether it be a mall or an individual store. There's still going to be a lot of people. So it's kind of... To me, it just seems like the accountability piece for the event that somebody might be infected, something might happen. And it comes back to, okay, who is responsible if somebody is, impacted by this?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it always goes back to legal and litigious and who can sue who and money.
Yeah. Where's that money coming from?
Yeah.
Where's that money coming from?
And, because I was actually doing grocery shopping today. I was at Walmart. And I was discussing with one of the staff. They said previously they were able to do 200 customers because they have their own counter system now. And then recently they were able to relax some of the rules, and then they even had an outside firm and do a study, and then they, based on square footage and aisles and taping and social distancing measures, they increased that to 400. But the one weekend they got up to 350, and people were starting to get nervous and they were voicing their concerns with the store. So it's super interesting what's going on, but it's going to require a lot of change, a lot of adaptation, and you got to be nimble and be able to be versatile and implement changes fast.
Well, I was actually having a conversation about these fast changes that are just changing so rapidly every day. I think it lends itself to the misinformation, because it's like if you miss a day, like literally, if you miss a day, you might miss the protocol change or whatever, and it's kind of like, well, I didn't know we were doing that. Well, I didn't know I couldn't, wear that mask, or I had to wear the mask here, and I don't have to wear it over here, and it's It's kind of like, okay, what's really happening? That's why are all these things changing so rapidly from you professionals? No.
And we're never going to get uniformity, right?
No.
Consistency across the board. So that's why, like, if one store is lax and the other ones are on sticklers, it's gonna be like, well, that place allows me to do this. These guys don't let me in unless I use a mask, and then like, there's rules, but like how people follow them, like the enforcement.
Yes, that's it.
Social distancing police. So like, is that really?
We're gonna have Gestapo.
Oh jeez.
Keep your distance.
Jeez. I wanted to share this